Next, we're going to go to our first mounting session. To get prepared for this, I'm going to take my horse back to the round pen and practice the round pen work. To turn him to the inside to get him to stop. And to approach him. Again, I approach off slightly to the side, not in an aggressive manner, but passive, and ask him to follow me to the center. This is a 2-year-old stallion, so he has the problem here of more interested in smelling the fecal balls in the sand than to follow me. So that means I don't have his attention yet. I'm going to send him back out to the rail. And once I figure I have his attention, I'll stop him again. Turns and faces me. I'm going to walk up. Again, you don't stare him down. You kind of very passive. This time he decides to come with me and become a partner. I practice by doing a little rubbing on him. What we're going to do today is called sacking out. Some people sack out without putting the halter and lead on, and that's fine. I'm going to put it on today, particularly because I'm going to put the saddle on for the first time. And I always have a fear that when I get that saddle on, if I don't get it tightened up sufficiently and he would make a move, that it could slip under his belly. And if a saddle's hanging under a horse's belly, I've yet to see a young horse that stands there quietly and says, "Oh, come fix this." So I'm going to put the lead rope on so I have control at all times if I need it. You'll notice, though, that it'll stay slack all the time as I work with this horse. I bring the saddle pad up. If a horse can smell and touch something, it seems to take a lot of the fear out of it. Then I'm to rub it on his body, bop it on his body, let him know that this thing doesn't hurt him. This horse has had about 45 rides, so he, of course, is a lot quieter this than you might expect. But this horse actually was this quiet the first time I ever did this. If he wanted to move, I'd let him move. I wouldn't let him run away, but I would keep rubbing him with the blanket, bopping him with the blanket till he does stand quiet, like this horse is doing. Next, we'll go back and we'll pick up the saddle. I like to put the stirrup and the girth up over the top so when I lay it on his back, it doesn't flop down and scare him. When I put this on, the stirrup does fall down, and that's okay. As I go through subsequent saddlings, I don't pay as much attention to this. I do let things flop on him because he's got to learn to accept those type of things. Make sure the girth is straight. I'll step over to the other side. This is the point at which a horse, if he's going to do something wrong, will probably do it. And that is when you tighten the girth up. Because if this is the first time he has felt pressure on his belly, his girth getting tightened up on, he may want to respond by humping up on his back and maybe bucking and trying to run off. So I get this girth in position so that I can tighten it up with one quick pull and hook the little keeper on it so it'll stay in place. He stayed quiet, so I'll go ahead and tighten this a little more. You want the saddle tight enough that it won't slip, but you don't want to cut the horse in half with it either. Then we'll put the girth up and its keeper, and we're ready to go to the next step. Again, I would ride my horse for the first time in this round pen where I feel safe. Again, because it's dusty, I'm going to go outside in the grass. I'm going to put a safety headgear on because you're going to fall off these things sometimes. No matter how much preparation you make, sometimes you're going to fall off, and you want to protect your head against injuries. When we get out here on the grass, what we're going to do is review our ground training exercises. For a horse, before I mount him, I want to be able to make sure that he moves off pressure on his face, that he'll flex his head to the side and move his haunches laterally. Also, even like to move the shoulders laterally as well. I'm not really interested in mounting a horse that doesn't back off pressure on his face or give his head to either side. So I want to do that before I mount. When I go to mount, I pick up the rein with my left hand and grab a hold of a piece of mane. So if he would start moving, I could pull his head around to the left and keep control. Also, if he would start moving before I got up on the saddle, I would just step back down and do some more ground training exercises. Pretty soon he'll learn that it's better to stand still than it is to have to do more work. I come over and get on the right side as well as I have stepped up on the left side, because horses aren't used to seeing you on both sides at once, and I want to make sure he's comfortable with me on either side. And he is. He's giving his nose over to the side here, and actually he's wanting petted, as you'll notice what I do later on, which kind of is the reason he gave his nose the way he did there. Now to get on, we're to ride with one rein. And to do that, I want him to be able to flip that rein over his head, so I better practice on the ground to make sure he's not concerned about that happening. As you see, his desensitivity training worked quite well, and he's quite quiet with it. Now we're ready to mount. We're to pick up the rein again in my left hand, so if he would move, I could pull him around and gain control quickly. But we're going to step up in the stirrup and go ahead and mount the whole way. Now once I'm up, I'm just going to sit there for a while. One of the worst problems we get into with horses is that they anticipate moving, and as soon as you hit the saddle, or even before you're in it all the way, they're trying to move off, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to get up here and sit for a while, let the horse also relax, and get a little more comfortable with me being on top. Then I'm going to go ahead and see, well, can I get his face off to the side? And I take a hold of it, and he very freely gives it to me to that side. Now, flip the rein over his head to see if that's going to work, and he does that. Then I'll ask him to give his nose over to the right side. When he gets over here, I kind of pet him, because he gives it and has slack in the line. And so I pet him, and then I'm ready to ride. I flip the rein back over the other side. The cues I'm going to give this horse to ride off is I'm to sit up in the saddle erect, push with my fanny into the seat. I'm to reach off with my left hand, and off we'll go eventually. First of all, we're going to move forward a little bit, and I want to see if I have a whoa. So before I go too far, I'm going to pick up on the rein with pressure and see if that'll stop him. And it does quite lightly. The other thing I've got to be concerned about before I move is how am I going to work with this rein? And I'm going to use 3 strokes of the rein to get the horse to give his nose to me. With each stroke, my grasp on the rein increases, so I have increasing force. What I want the horse to do, there he started giving on 2, and 3 he gave all the way. I want him to learn to give with a very, very light touch. And of course, if they give on the light touch, you don't have to go with more strokes. There he started on the 2nd, 3rd he came all the way. Then he put his nose back out and relax a little bit. Pick up with 1, and he started coming with the very first time. Very quickly, the horse will learn to come with the first stroke. And the reason, of course, is they don't like discomfort. They don't want to have to be pulled on harshly, and so they give quite lightly and come to your hand. Next thing we're going to do to make sure we have a safe ride is, can we corner our horse? Cornering is flexing the neck and moving the haunches laterally. I lift my left hand up across to my opposite shoulder, and I use my heel, and I look toward that rear flank. On the ground, when we flex the hip, we use the end of the rein to tap the flank if he didn't move over. Now our heel is doing that for us. If I can get my horse to flex his neck and give his hip to either side, I feel confident that I can ride the horse and be safe. For a horse to run off, to buck, or to rear, they have to have their haunches under their body. So if my horse starts to tense up, gets going too quick for me, I'll just corner him out. Here I set up, I point off the direction. He follows my hand basically, because on the lunge line he's always learned to follow my hand and move in regard with it. Also, as I said, I sit erect in the saddle. I push with my seat bone a little bit to ask him to go forward as well. If he wouldn't have listened to that, I would have squeezed with my legs. My 3rd level cue would have been bumping him with my legs, and my 4th level cue would be to hit him with the end of the lead rope on the top of the croup to make him go forward. As he goes around here, I keep bringing his nose over and letting loose of it. Now, on the first ride, you're going to walk, and you're only going to ride for about 5 minutes. This horse has had about 45 days training, so he went ahead and trot. But I don't want him to trot, and he's getting a little too aggressive on me. I'll just bring him down, stop, and we'll start walking again. Of course, you always ride in an area that's small enough and safe enough that you feel comfortable. Don't ride in a big area if you're not comfortable with that large area. Also, this rein, I said we pull when he comes, he releases. You can't hold on with the rein. The horse has to learn to move his head over and keep it where you left it, instead of you hanging on to it all the time. Because eventually, if you hang on to it, he's going to pull back, and eventually he'll just run off with you. So always give and release. It may take 3,000 repetitions till he learns to keep his head over there, but he will learn. Have faith. Corner him out here. Then by the 2nd ride and 3rd ride, I do let my horse trot, and I encourage him to go into the trot. And again, I'm doing the same thing as I did at the walk, as I'm showing him where to go, give his nose over, let loose. I actually have a little cone here in the center of the pennant I'm going around. That's my focal point with my eyes. I'm looking in that direction. And then I'm using my hand lightly in the rein to stroke it to get him to bring his nose over and then release him. Want him to learn to go around here comfortably and relaxed without any difficulty. Corner him out if he gets a little too fast for me, and let him stop and relax. The corner is your last hope to get a halt if your horse is starting to get excited. And so I pick up in the rein first, and then if that doesn't work, then I'll take a little more pressure on the rein, and if that doesn't work, I corner him out. Here he went into a canter. This will usually happen about 2 weeks into riding. Horses usually kind of almost tell you that they want to canter. One day you'll be out there trotting and they'll just want to go on into a lope, and if they do that, I let them, and I just sit on there and ride it. If a horse is a little lazy, you may have to get after him at the end of your lead rope and spank him on the croup to get him to go forward, but that's it. He cantered a nice circle there, and I bring him down and I stop him. I stop by quitting riding. How do you quit riding? Well, as I was riding around there, I'm sitting erect in the saddle, my energy is up, I'm driving him forward with my seat. When I want to quit riding, I just sit down in the saddle and then lift up on the rein. And the horse very quickly picks up on that. Then we're going to go to 2 reins. And show you here as you watch it how to rig it up. You go to 2 reins simply for the obvious advantage of being able to change direction without having to flip that rope over top of your horse's head. The reason I start with 1 rein is man's natural instinct when they are afraid is to grab with both hands and pull. And if you pull with both hands on a horse, you're going to lock him up between the reins. He'll get more tense, more afraid, and he's more likely to buck or run off with you than if you just have 1 rein. Because with 1 rein, you pull his head to the side, and it gives him a place to go to, and the horse doesn't tense up. But now we're ready to go with 2 reins. We handle 2 reins exactly the same way we did with 1. Again, I sat there a little bit before I go anywhere or do anything. Then to handle these reins, now I'll pick up with my right hand about chest high, and I'll put my left hand down on the rein and stroke it again with my 3 strokes to get my horse to give to me. I do 3 strokes here, and his attention is off somewhere ahead of him, and so I have to really take a hold with a little more firmness. But very quickly, again, he learns to go with the first stroke. Also, when you stop the horse now, instead of just lifting with 1 rein, you're going to sit down and lift with 2 reins to get him to stop. Let's move on off. Raise up my energy, push with my seat bones, push my hand out to the side. Now, with 2 reins, I don't lead him off so far. I don't put my hand out so far to the left. I tend to keep my hand closer to his body. The outside rein, what value is it giving us other than the obvious one of being able to change direction easily? Well, as a horse starts to be ridden, our main thing is trying to get him to give his nose to the inside. And after a little while, the horse learns, hey, I can give my nose to the inside and I can still run off to the outside by pushing my shoulder to the right. So our outside rein is a supporting rein, which blocks the shoulder from running off to the outside. Also, I want to teach this horse the neck rein. And so before I take a hold with the left rein to bring his nose over, I'm going to rub the outside rein up on his neck. Here we'll reverse and go the other way. So when I want him to bring his nose right, I rub the left rein up on his neck, and then I pull him on over with the right rein. Pretty soon he learns to respond just to the rein laying on his neck, that he's always moving away from the rein that's touching his neck. And then we bring him down to a halt. One last thing I want to do with this horse before I go any further is talk about the backup. How do we get the young horse started to back? I pick up in the reins until I feel his face, and if he's real light and responsive, he ought to move off pressure on his nose. So I pick up till I feel his nose and hold it, and he starts to back off. Now this horse has been backing for a while, so you see he's pretty light and pretty sensitive to it. To start, they're not going to always be that easy. And so I'll pick up in the rein, hold him with the amount of pressure necessary that he feels it, and as soon as he backs off, I know give him release. Now I start by closing my hands, index finger to little finger, and pull my arms back as he backs off. I won't back this far before I release on my young horse. I usually only go a step or 2 because I want him to realize the step was what I'm asking for, and I want to reward him as quickly as possible when he's back up, so he gets light and soft on the reins.